All right, we're live. Now let's get the little thing where I say share invite. No. Where's the fucking link? Settings, guests. Go back over to here. Go over, take a look at Rooney. Dashboard live. Should have something coming in right now. So I can get that link. Fantastic. Okay. You share the link. Discard. So let's do, we're just going to pretend that this whole thing never happened. So we'll do delete this old one. I know it's not very interesting to listen to me as I go through on a completely different screen. Now, hold on. Delete that tweet. Create a brand new tweet. It's the exact same info as the last tweet, only this time it'll go to something that works. All right, so let me do this. If you thought you saw this before, no, you didn't. Sweaty smile. Perfect. All right, there we go. That's better. Sweet. Okie dokie. So, hey, Brett, what's going on, bud? Um, so, been asked a couple times how to do like a update to a static site, what that actually looks like with VS Code. It's sort of something you can pull together if you're using like Netlify CMS. But to people who don't write code every day, it's not super duper obvious. Excuse me, how you do the same workflow locally, how you can check and see what did my changes do, all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is draft up a really basic blog post inside of my static site, talk you through what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and then I will go ahead, make my changes, save my changes, push my changes, preview those changes, and then call it quits here. So this should be relatively short, but if you have any questions or comments or whatever, go ahead and do post them, and I'll answer as best I can. So, first thing to talk about is what is the site that I'm editing. So, for my purposes, I'm just going to edit the Flagrant Garden site. As you can see here, what we're going to do is we're just going to add a new post, just a goof post for the purposes of this, just a blog. So, I have already opened up my project locally, which is what I'm looking at in VS Code. So if you can figure out how to open up your own project in VS Code, great. If not, you can always open up VS Code and then click Control K and O. If you just hold down Control between those two, I think it's Command on a Mac. Brett probably knows. And then just find it wherever it is on your computer. In my case, it's the site folder, which is already open. That will reopen whatever VS Code window you already have in your project, which is how you get everything off to the side. Okay, so we have a copy of the project locally. If you need help on cloning, how to use Git to grab that project, go ahead, drop a comment, and I'll cover that. But for right now, I'm going to skip it. So we have a project locally. The first thing that I always do whenever I open up a project is check to see what branch I'm on. So out of habit, I will use the command line, but VS Code will also tell you down in the bottom left corner, there's a branch called main. So it's telling me that I'm on the main branch of my repository. I never ever work from main because that's how you accidentally break or blow up things, and it's a pain in the ass to fix. So the very first thing that I usually do is git checkout B, and in this case, I'm just going to do draft main uh, how to local flow. So Not super important, but best practice, in my opinion, is to give whatever the branch is that you're going to be working from a semantically useful to you name. The way that I usually do it is the type of thing I'm doing slash where I want it to land, which is almost always main slash what the hell it is. But this would also just work fine. That would be okay. Again, I use the command line, but you can also come down here. If you click the branch button in the bottom left, you get a new option. So create new branch. And here I will call it what I would have called it before. So I'll just do draft main how to local flow. Okay. And then we can actually see in the bottom left that it's been updated. And if I run a command called Git Status, this tells me that I am now on a completely different branch. I have nothing to commit. My working tree is clean. Um, there's a lot of stuff about Git and how it works that we don't really need to get into. But the basic thing to keep in mind here is that um, as far as the systems that care about your code are concerned, um, you have different branches, which you can think of as like parallel saved versions of your work. So in this case, we're just saying, hey, let's create a new version of our work. And all the messing and goofing that we're going to do it in that edition and not on what is currently published to our website. So before we do anything else, we can actually see that our website is able to preview locally before we change anything. So in my case, this is Hugo serve. For people who are using Jekyll, it's probably bundle exec Jekyll serve, if I had to guess. But in any case, if I run this command, okay, it's did a bunch of stuff we don't care about, and now my page is available. And here we can see now that it says localhost 1313. It is not the publicly available website. So this is my local copy. And if I make any changes here, we can see those changes reflected. So just to do an example of that, we'll go to content and index. This is the front page. And instead of welcome to the flagrant garden and nursery for narrative play, we'll say welcome to the flagrant garden, a hit save. So Hugo has refreshed what it was showing in the website. And so now we can see that that's reflected. And if we go back to the published version, of course, it hasn't landed here, right? And that's what we want. We want to be able to make our copy. We want to be able to make our changes locally and see those reflected locally without breaking anything else. So come back here. I don't actually want to do that. So let me end that. Okay, great. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come into posts and I'm just going to grab the last one I did so that I can get this header content, which doesn't matter to you, but does matter to me. And then say how to local flow.md. So what I'm going to do here is I'm creating a blog post. The details of how this works depends on everybody's static site generator, but in my case, I'm using Hugo and Platen. So we're just going to, before we write our actual blog post, going to fill out all of this metadata information here. So today's date is 02/05. And this is how to use VSCode. Just use the exact same thing for the link title because I'm lazy. And for a summary, we can make changes to your site locally, review them, save them, see them reflected on GitHub. Categories. What's a good category for this? I guess this is like workflow, and then tags is tech. That's the only one we're going to do. All right, we'll give this a weight of 10 and leave comments on, not that it matters. Okay, great. So hit save, and then come back here, go to posts, and now we can see that we've already added the new blog, right? There's almost nothing in it because we haven't defined anything, but I'm just going to add a sentence or two to kind of show that. This is a sentence. Maybe I should really write this blog header, unordered list, emphasized item, strongly emphasized item, ordered list, nested item, not nested anymore, table, there. So everything you're looking at here is just markdown syntax. So then this will be left, center, right. Okay. Block quote, a sub header. And is there anything else I want to show? I'm going to look up a short code for YouTube for Hugo. So Hugo can insert YouTube stuff directly into the page. So let's do Hugo short code YouTube. Find out what this is supposed to be. Come into here. YouTube input short code. Okay. So it'll look like this. It's everything that comes after the V equals. See, I don't even know if this is actually going to work. So let me grab the shareable link real quick and then strip it out. Oh, well, that's not going to work. You have to go follow it and get that full thing. All right. So I think this is it. Yeah. All right, sweet. Now if we save and go back to our web page. Yep. Okay. So we can see now that it actually is also including the YouTube bit. All that markdown was turned into text as we expected, kind of put it all together for us. Great. So let's pretend for a moment that this isn't a complete crap blog post and is actually useful to somebody. We've saved it. We've previewed locally. It's time to save our changes and see what happens when we push them. So again, there are two ways to do this. And I will kind of talk through both of them. So the first thing that I usually do after I make changes is I run a command called Git Status. Git Status tells you what has changed since the last piece that you said, I definitely want to save this to the system, that I want Git, which is the tracker for what's going on, to know about what I've done. So here it says that there's untracked files and that I can add them. If you're using VSCode, which I do recommend, VSCode has a really nice change set view that'll show you what was removed or added. In this case, the whole file is green because we added a brand new file. But if we just want to go back for a second to the front page and insert gobbledygook nonsense again, now when we go back to changes, we see it automatically picked up that there is two sets of changes. And when we come in here, it shows exactly what happened, that we added something. And if I have that replace nursery instead of add before nursery, the change view is even better. So here we see nursery was removed, it's highlighted. And then over here, the is added in a darker green. Any questions about that? If you've got them in comments, sound off before I go ahead and save. Should take a drink. Okay, no questions came in. I don't know how long the delay is, but that's fine. So as you're about to watch me do, I can also discard the changes, right? If I erroneously picked something up here, I can say, no, I don't want that change. So that's what we're going to do to this one. So we're going to say discard changes, make that go away. And then this plus button is labeled stage changes. So when you press that button, it's not irrevocable. If you decide you want to keep making changes, you can do so, and then just they'll show up under changes again instead of staged changes, and you can press the plus on them, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say that we're happy with it. I usually will use the command line, and to do what we just did at the command line, it would have been git add content posts, and then this is how to local flow. So that command is the same as what happened when we pressed the plus sign above. So similarly, we're going to do our commit in here. So I'm just going to call this draft, add a blog post. About local workflow. Use their tools without them fighting. Cool. So now I'm going to press this check button up here. This is commit. You won't have this. I sign my commits for security purposes for work. Anyway, so great. So now we notice that there's nothing in the change set list over here anymore. And if I run git status down at the bottom, I get on branch draft main how to local flow, nothing commit, working tree clean. If I run git log and one, so this just tells me the last set of changes that were made. And so here we can see it's the commit that we just identified. If you want to check that from the terminal, you can also do file history, and then we'll see, where are we? Yeah. We can see that we made those changes and what had happened in that last commit, which can be useful. I don't use that very much myself just because out of habit, I tend to use the command line. All right, great, cool. We made our local change, but we need to get it up to GitHub. How do we do that? So we can come down to here, branches. So there's a bunch of things that are here that are listed. So why? Compare in working tree, publish branch, switch to another branch, add to favorites. What does this last one do? Doesn't say. So what we're actually going to do is publish branch, which I think will do a git push. We'll see what happens when I press the button. I usually use the command line for this. Okay, and in my case, I want to publish to origin. I have a extension in VS Code that automatically asks me this question, and I'm going to go ahead and say create pull request in GitHub to Flagrant Garden site. Behind the scenes, that opened up this page, right? So instead of following it here in case that button doesn't work for you, I'm actually going to go ahead and manually create it just so you can see what that process looks like. So go back to the home page for the site, So this is where the code lives, and then you'll see right here at the top, GitHub is actually helpfully telling me that I recently pushed some changes, and would I like to do a compare and pull request? I think I would. I click the button. It's the exact same thing that VS Code automatically gave me. So I'm going to go ahead and press the create pull request button. So um, Nature asked me to kind of help a little bit with this, give me the good idea to do this stream itself. So worth pointing out is that both Nate and I use Netlify for our site hosting, which is a phenomenal service. And in particular, what it is doing right now is the reason that I like to use it. So behind the scenes, Netlify has seen what changes I just pushed up and has automatically gone and run some tests and built my website. So if I scroll back up, we can see that the Netlify bot added a comment. If I click this button, that'll take me over to my site, and so will this button. In both cases, it's warning me because it's pretty close to the site name that I have locally. Yeah, Chrome is being a little bit goofy. Anyway, so we're on the site, and now we can see that it is called Deploy Preview 28. And the reason for that is that this is um, in GitHub's system, the 28th issue for the project. So it actually pulled the number off of here. That's how we got preview 28. So we can go over to posts, and then we can click on, we can see, first of all, that it is actually here. Click the how to use Netlify, see that everything we wrote shows up, see that everything works just fine. Now that we're live, we have the, from my site, the Discus comments are turned on, and that all just kind of cleaned up and worked. So if I wanted to merge this, for my project, I actually have to do a review. You probably don't. So let's just say, for the sake of this, oh, I can't review my own. Anyway, well, okay, so I can't merge it, but you can on your site. I have some security stuff in place because this is actually an open source project. Anyway, you would come down and you would click merge pull request. Assuming everything passed, your button will be green because you're not missing a review. And then you just press the button. It'll get merged over to main, and you can see on GitHub, if you go to code, you'll be able to see that, like, mine right now says 19 days ago. If I had merged this, it would say a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago or whatever. And then your changes will actually show up on Netlify on your live site. I'm not going to merge this because I actually think I want to clean this blog post up after the video is done and clarify exactly what I was doing, answer any questions and comments that come up afterwards. So I hope that was broadly useful. I can show you real quick before we go what happens if, say, I need to make another change, right? So let's say we want to move the YouTube link all the way up to the start. Video version of this done off the cuff here. Save. If I wanted to do a local preview again, I could. I could open my local preview. The posts. And now we can see that the YouTube has actually been moved up to the top. So I'm happy with that. I'll come back and I will add my change. And then I will say, top of blog, commit, and then I can come down here. Oh, where is the push. How did we do? Oh, it was this thing. Um, do-do-do-do. So now I can press the push button over here on my branch that I'm working from. If I press push one commit from this branch to origin, which is what I want. Okay, so that happened. And then if we come back to our pull requests, we can see that that commit has landed and Netlify is actually rebuilding. So Netlify will automatically pick up those changes whenever you make them again. Yep. All right. And one last thing to note about the Netlify preview that may not be super duper obvious. Can I make it small enough? Okay, here we go. So Netlify actually has some little helper bits down here at the bottom. I believe that these will automatically associate themselves with the pull request, but we can test it real quick. Say screenshot, Chrome tab. Oh, that's, yeah, Chrome tab and uh, this one. This one. Yeah, hang on. Let's actually go to the blog post before we do that so that it's useful to us. If we do screenshot, tab, this one, share. Okay, yeah. So Netlify will automatically enable you to take a screenshot of what you're working on, and then you can do selections, draw lines, point to things, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to write a comment on here. That, and then we have some options here. Use in new comment, I think is what we want. So we'll do use a new comment. And it's automatically figured it out and added it over here. This is an example of using the Netlify screenshot function. If we go back to our pull request, we can actually see that that has been reflected. So Netlify is a pretty cool piece of tooling. I'm a really big fan of it. I hope that this has been useful for you. I'm going to go ahead and stop doing work and sit quietly for about 30 to 60 seconds, unless somebody asks me questions, in which case I'll answer. After that, I will probably jump. All right, pretty deafening silence. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I hope that was helpful, and I will be happy to do more of these if you have specific questions or curiosities or whatever. Um, I have spent the last half decade plus as a software engineer in my day job, mostly working on developer experience stuff and tooling. So I'm pretty knee deep in this type of work. I know that it is a little alien and confusing. I'm happy to walk you through just enough to get you going so that you don't get overwhelmed. I'm also happy to help you understand some of the underlying stuff so that you can do more complex and difficult things. But in general, I think you probably don't need those until you know you do. So have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next one of these. Bye.